Welcome back, No Job family, to the No Job podcast. My name is Najee Simmons, your host. On this show, we believe that everybody has to earn a living, of course, but that doesn't mean you have to have a job. You don't have to go somewhere and trade your soul and your time and your energy for green pieces of paper that are a lot less rewarding than you think they are. And today's guest, Angelica Prather, is someone who shares our mentality, but not only does she think like us, she's actually staked her life and her livelihood on that fact being true, that everybody has to earn a living, sure, but nobody has to have a job. Angelica, for a number of years, has been a hairdresser, a salon owner, and now she is the founder of Charge Your Worth Academy, where she teaches hairdressers how to make a business out of their business, how to make a business out of their passion and their hobby. Angelica, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this. Really excited.
Very excited to have you. As I mentioned at the start, you are in the hair trade. Just could you quickly tell me, how long have you been in the business? How'd you get into it?
I've been in the business for 16 years, actually 17. Let me not say, I've been saying 16 years, but it's actually 17. So 17 years. And I actually found my passion from lying, actually saying, you hear, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I started saying like just the cliche things. But I was really good with like braiding people's hair. And I just fell into it after doing my cousin's hair. And it became something. And my grandma's like, you're really good at that. So don't lie about saying the cliche things. It's okay to have a passion and love it, right? And it can be something. But I didn't have an example of that. So I guess I would be a little fearful of saying it at such a young age because there was nobody living that life for me.
Right. But shout out to your grandmother for letting you know that it was okay to have a passion. I mean, I I'm not I can approximate when she grew up, and I would say not a lot of people from her generation would say that to their granddaughter or to a young kid. It's always get the job with the town, the county, or the state, and get that pension. Don't take a risk, because that's how they came up, and they made tremendous sacrifices when it comes to their passions and wants and desires. And it might be really easy for them to advise us to do the same. But obviously, your grandmother had a different spirit and different attitude about it.
Mhm.
Were your parents the same way as she was?
No, I think it stems from my great grandmother, who was a pioneer for all of my family. So she was an entrepreneur herself. She owned a daycare and her children worked in that daycare. So there was a line of finding a passion of something and turning it into actually something concrete that you can touch. And so I think for my grandma's also a musician. And so she has that creative mind. And I think when you have a creative mind, you kind of go into that dreamy world and you can almost make it a reality. And my grandma was also a realtor. So she was able to, kind of freelance a little bit, but, you still are looking for that concrete. And even though she's from that times, she's a dreamer. And I think it's important when you're a dreamer, because then you can pass that on to your, children and your children's children.
Sure, absolutely. I like that you identified yourself and your great grandmother as dreamers. I definitely would call myself a dreamer, but for the longest time in life, I just did not have terminology for what I was feeling. I didn't have
Mhm.
terminology for not being able to sit at a desk. I didn't have terminology for just not being able to do simple tasks if I just didn't find meaning behind them.
Mhm.
Mentally, I swear I'm capable of doing simple things, but emotionally, it takes a toll on me to just do mundane tasks for too long. And it sounds like you're the same way.
Yes. And I actually married my husband and he's the same exact way. But I think we are kind of opposite in certain places. But I knew as a young person, like going to like my aunt's jobs, they had that take your child to work day. And I was like, they sit in a cubicle. It's like little rats, it's like this little cubicle and you're just staring and you're at a computer. And although I have an online business now, I just don't believe you have to put 8 hours in or 10 hours in and commute to work to order to produce a living. We say that cliche thing, work smarter, not, work harder, work smarter, not harder. And I couldn't understand why people have talents, but they can't see a dollar sign to the talent. Like, why is it that you can't have a talent and make it into a full-on business, right? What is wrong with that? But what I love is happening now is that the pandemic kind of birthed that and kind of pushed people into, I do have a talent. And I always say, if you have a talent, you'll never be broke a day in your life, ever. So if every job decides to close down and we all had to survive, then what would we lean on? Our talents, our gifts and talents will always take us far. So you'll never be broke, and broke is a mindset, right? And this job is almost like, I need to go do it because I need to be a slave to pay a lender. That's how I look at jobs, right? I'm forced to go to this job because I have to pay this bill. But if you remove all the debt and then you kind of tap into, there's things about me that I want to do it. Like, who stops you? Who's telling you that you can't utilize the gifts and talents that God all puts us in our body and not make a dollar for it? Just don't.
Every business that I or anyone else has ever worked for was originally something birthed in someone else's mind. So why can't you and me be the ones that birth something in our minds that employs other people? And I'm almost willing to bet for most people who feel like us, when we're in a typical 9-to-5 rat race cubicle kind of situation, which is like mentally damaging to me, maybe it's because you're supposed to bring something into the world that is meaningful and purposeful and helps people. And I like how you added that so many people have doubts about whether they can, combine their talent and getting paid, because I was just on your website and you talk about hairdressers making six figures and teaching hairdressers how to do that. Where I come from and where I grew up, if you were bold enough to step out on your own and maybe open a salon or start a business, it always seemed like the expectation was just to make enough money to live. Nobody was thinking about six figures. So where did you start combining making not just enough money to have something to eat, but to thrive? When did that come into your mind with relation to anything to do with hair?
Well, that's amazing. That's a great question. And I think when I got into the industry and I started to see how people were doing hair and really figuring out, like, I was seeing how much money I was making as an assistant. I'm like, I can only imagine when I start doing hair, like my own clients, that it's easy to make six figures, but I also love math. I was really, really big into math. So I'm like, if I took this amount of clients, charge them this based on all the business expenses, personal expenses, taxes, all that stuff, this is how much I need to be making. I don't need 1,000 clients. I only need a small amount of my core, talk to them, six figures right there. It's not that hard. But then I realized for the African-American community, we have this, the more I do, the more clients I take, the more money I make. Well, actually, it's the opposite. The less you take, the more you make.
Okay, please dive deep into that. I got to hear more.
And this could be applied to any business. So you have to know, I know this sounds really cliche, but in Charge Your Worth Academy, what I teach them is like break the mindset of I have to have more. You have to actually sit down and look about, who am I talking to? What clients am I going? And I know it sounds like, oh, that's not really, like, that doesn't make me more. But if I'm looking for a specific client and I'm solving a specific problem, then all I need to find out is that I'm solving this problem, know all of my expenses. That is how much I'm charging for a business. My concept can be applied to any business. So I just took less. I actually implemented a membership program. And so my clients on a subscription base. So I have money coming in residually. So that's something also that I teach. But I also didn't need 100 clients. I narrowed it down to 50. They're on residual. Residual money means residual six figures. Mm-hmm. That's it.
That makes perfect sense. But so we're having a conversation, people are listening to this, and you had no problem telling me that sort of foundation of your model and what you teach people. So obviously, just understanding that mentally isn't enough for people to take it to the next level. A lot of hairdressers go to Charge Your Worth Academy and they hire you sort of as a coach, if that's the correct phase, to guide them through it. So what part of this process that makes sense on the surface do you find people actually need coaching to help them execute? Where is it that they need someone to help them fill the gaps when the plan just makes sense?
Well, to answer that in like kind of two parts. No, when you're in beauty school, they teach you how to make the money, but they don't tell you they'll say, let me backtrack. You can make a lot of money. We hear that everywhere. You can make a lot of money, but most hairdressers are broke. Let's just get it right? They're taking everybody. And I'm not saying that to be rude or anything, but they just don't know how to implement. They base their prices on location. They base their prices off of the next person is charging this, so I should be charging that. Or I'm new in the industry, so I should charge less. So they don't see a value in that. I just went to school. I need to pay back for this school. And then I have other expenses to order to make money in my business, right? To make a profit. No one's teaching that. And so that's where Charge Your Worth Academy is, because there's veterans, there's people that are been in the business, but there's nobody to sit down with their finances and say, this is how much you need to be charging. This is how many clients you need to be bringing in. And so that's what our program is breaking the mold of what they were doing and implementing a new system. And I believe I like to study other businesses, but if you look at Chick-fil-A, one of my favorite companies, their menu is so simple. It's not, I do everything. They sell chicken. They've mastered it in 3 different compartments. So you can get a chicken sandwich, you can get chicken strips, you can get it on a salad. That's it. French fries are the same, small, medium, large. They worked smart. They didn't try to do everything. They don't have baked potatoes and all this other stuff. And that's how hairdressers are. They're like, I got to do everything. No, you don't. What are you necessarily great at? And then let's package that. And then let's get the skill level there, because you can't charge for something that you suck at, right? So what are you good at? If you're good at this, let's focus on that and let's charge that and let's monetize on that. So I hope that answered your question if I was able to break it down.
Yes, and I hear you talking about and narrowing in on what we call niches.
Niching.
Right? So how would you recommend, because what you talk about with relation to the hair business is, as you said, widely applicable to a number of businesses. How did you go about finding your niche, identifying and speaking to them? If I'm, John Smith, how do I figure out what people are going to listen to me or what people I can serve? What's that process like for the listeners?
So are you talking about from a Charge Your Worth Academy or from a hairstylist perspective?
You can talk about it in relation to hairstylists, but I think it'll be applicable to anyone something's doing in any discipline. Just like in hair, there's multiple segments, of the market. And how did you choose and know who you were going to serve and how you were going to serve them? What was the process of figuring that out like?
So figuring out your niche is figuring out, to me, it's figuring out the problem that you can solve. And it usually comes natural to you. I love math. I love money, right? I love learning about debt. That's really easy, right? So I'm talking about from the Charge Your Worth, and I'll give you from a hairstylist standpoint. But I started to see a problem and in conversation with stylists, it's like, I'm barely making it. And I'm like, well, I've made it and I look like you. And I'm like, okay, that's a problem that I can solve. If I keep this to myself, then I'm not helping anybody, right? So that part was really easy. And I kind of wrote down to their pain points. And I'm like, okay, that can be solved. So that's a niche when it comes to Charge Your Worth and how I figured that I wanted to help. But some of the things that I tell people when you're looking for your niche, it's usually the thing that comes super natural to you. You're usually your niche, actually.
Okay.
So the reason why I solved my own problem was because I knew that I needed a huge price increase and I really wasn't making the funds that I really desired to make when I made the transition. So I'm like, how can I solve my problem? So if you look at you and you're starting to go into the workspace in any shape or form, you solve the problem for yourself. That's why you're in business, right? So
Right.
you're usually your target audience.
Hmm.
Write down your process. That's your niche.
Hmm.
That's the problem you solve. And then there's more people that are like you. That's why you have listeners, because there's more people that are like you. You're solving a problem. The problem that you are solving is that people are tired of just clocking in and they want to dream. This
Hmm.
is your niche,
Yeah.
right? And so you'll start solving a problem. So I usually say your niche is you, and write down you, and then write down, we hear the word niche, but write down the personality of the client, the
Okay.
person you're targeting, because that's where you need to go. I know for me, I was talking to accountants and all these other people, but I'm like, that's not enough. They need someone that's in the business, that has been in their chair, talk their language, because it's too much. But I
Mhm.
was once them. So I usually say your niche is you. Your
Right.
niche is you. You solve the problem, and that's it.
So then your niche is the man or the woman in the mirror. Yeah, that
Yes.
that makes perfect sense because oftentimes we're searching high and low, far and wide, to try to find apparently ourselves. But you know what? It takes some faith to believe that you're useful the way that God made you, right? That you don't have to
Mhm.
pretend to be somebody else in order to have enough value to charge people money. So
Mhm.
I appreciate that you brought that up because I'm taking from it, you have to just have the audacity to believe that you being you is useful to not just one person, but many people. And there are people who understand you and people who are like you. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to take that one with me. So,
Good.
and speaking of faith, right? We touched on this topic a few times, but never dived into it. Charging big money or the money you deserve for what you're doing. Can you remember and tell me about the time when you first raised your prices, probably as a hairdresser, to what you felt was appropriate versus what you had always done or what other people were charging? What did it take? Tell me about the nervousness, if there was any. Talk about
Mhm.
that.
So I'll take you a little back. Um, I when I decided that there was a huge price increase for myself, of course there was nerves, because you start thinking about all the different people that you serve, and like they can, all their business, especially as a hairdresser, right? So all their business, and you're like, oh, I hope they're gonna not leave me. But then there's a part of you in entrepreneurship that you have to realize this is a business, and in order to go to the next level, everybody can't come with you, right? You have to look at what is going on in your business and how long have you been in this place. People celebrate when they get a raise. They're like, woohoo. I say I'm raising my prices, and they're like, wait, oh, but I'm like, we just celebrate your raise. That's why you're in here getting your hair done. This is a business. And so I always tell people that are entrepreneurs, separate the two. You can have a great friendly relationship, but it's business. Now I know when you go into get an Apple phone, if for those who are Apple users, they pray that the price is it and there's no negotiation.
Mhm.
Correct. So something you said, you have to have the audacity. It's not that for me, it's not that I had the audacity. I found value in what I was bringing. And there's some people that did not see value in me, did not believe that I was providing value. So my nice thing that I like to say, it was great. I have a referrer for you, because I don't want anyone sitting in my chair that doesn't see value in me, because I'm providing a service, and you leave here feeling great. You leave here feeling amazing, and not only you look amazing. And I know for women or men, they get a haircut or they get, they start feeling amazing. That's value. You can't put a price tag on that feeling, right? So that is what I provide. I also provide customer service, time management. You're in and out. There's things about my business that that can't really put the dollar sign, because I'm invaluable in God's eyes, right? But you're going to pay for what I'm providing. And I think when I just took a stand and realized that, and I was fearful, I made the choices in being fearful. I knew all the math and all that stuff, but when it was time to implement, I was like, look, I have to take a loss if there's a loss. But here's the beautiful thing about it. When you take a stand in your business, like if you're to those who are listening, that's at that beginning stage and you're like wondering how much I should charge or anything like that, remove yourself out of it and say, what is this valued at? what value am I providing? When you remove your emotions from it and you look at the value that they're getting, never sell your time. I don't like that people put, this thing with, oh, I'm doing this, so I'm going to get paid X.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the value that you're providing, because people pay for values and people pay for stories. They pay for connection. So whatever it is that you're providing, that's what you should be. So for me, when I was making those choices and I was like, there was fear there, but it was such a relief because those who needed to leave were the ones that were a little stressful for me. And then that's when I was able to be like, ooh, it's great, And so in business, you have to take those leaps and bounds. But for me, it just was like, it was time. I had not raised my prices for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was also a little bit at the higher end when I was, but I didn't have children. My expenses were different. My business expenses were different. I was marketing a little bit differently. My business built without social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was social media, and there was a little bit of things in marketing, and the business was changing. So yeah, there were more expenses, and you have to look at it. It's a business. When people raise their prices, not because they want to put $1 in their pocket, everything else is going up.
Yeah. And true. Absolutely. They accept that the price of everything else goes up. So why wouldn't your prices go up? That's absolutely reasonable. And most of the things we're uncovering here are totally reasonable. And the only reason we hesitate to act on them is, as you stated, our emotions that are wrapped up in our perception of ourselves. Isn't that funny? That we have to start thinking about ourselves rightly in order to be able to do what we were born to do at an efficient level. And speaking of efficiency, another thing I hear you talking about a lot is sort of running an efficient salon in an efficient business. And that's not something you saw everywhere. So can you talk about the role being efficient and professional has played in the way that you do business?
Well, when I first started in the industry, I actually worked in a predominantly white salon. Mm-hmm. And I seen the difference of like it running very differently. I was like, why does it feel like a machine? Right? It just felt like a machine, but not in a way of, I didn't feel cheap. Right? It's not like get in, get out. And they provided value, but they sent you on your way. And then I would go into, more predominantly Black salon. And I can't say this for all, but it was heavily in our communities that you would be in there all day. You're taking a vacation. I'm like, I can't go in here for a vacation.
I've been there with my mom for half the day. It's
crazy. Yeah. And you probably have a lot of patience. Like that probably made you the most patient man ever, because you're like, okay, I got to sit here and watch mama get done. But I was like, there's something missing, and I don't know what it is that was missing. And so as I was working as an assistant in these salons, I'm like, okay, the difference is time management and customer service. But then what is customer service? You tell a salon, this is the two things you're missing. How do you do that? So when I seen that there was a disconnect, I had to grow in the business. I had to learn a lot in the business. And then I'm like, that's it. That's what we're missing. We do some amazing hair, but we're missing the key component. And it goes back to what I said. We think I take everybody, I'm making a lot of money. But if I'm dogmatic, if I work from 8:00 in the morning to 10 o'clock, you cannot tell me my energy is exactly the same. You can't even tell me I'm providing value. Yeah. And I noticed that clients were getting tired of that. They're like, so they would come to other salons. They would always be searching, no matter how great their hairstylist was. They got tired of that. They don't want to do that. So why not provide value so that you can give someone a blueprint? Follow this and you will have success. You don't need to take everybody and their mama. This is who you need to be serving, and remove the rest. Send them somewhere else. So it's those things that I like seen in the business. And I was like, it has to be taught. And one of my clients really set the tone for me. She says, I don't come to you because you do such amazing hair. And at first I was like offended. I'm like, wait, hold up. Because I know your hair grew long. And she's like, it's that, like, my hair always feels beautiful, but I always feel valued, and my time is respected. And so no matter what you charge, I will fly hair and get my hair done. Ooh. And that was such a big compliment. And she's still with me, and I love her dearly. Not because of that. And, we're close, but it's not like we hanging out, Kiki, and she values my business and I value her business,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I would pay for whatever. She's in the oil industry, but so I can't get anything. And she's a heavy hitter too.
Right.
But, we just support each other in whatever we're doing. But it's those things. Your clients will tell you a lot about your business. They will survey your business and they will share the value. If you're ever wondering, am I doing the right thing? Ask your community.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them. They will get everything back to you. So I hope I answered your question.
You answered it and more, and that's
Oh.
exactly what I'm looking for here. Because I bring people like you on because we're all looking for insight. We are at different stages of this journey, myself and the people who are listening, just trying to develop the mindset that is required to make a living doing something that we're passionate about, something that has meaning to us. And I can tell you're a kindred spirit from everything that you're saying and the way that you say it. Now, you said something that is like sacrilegious, though, in some of the stuff I've seen, like on YouTube and Instagram. You said so you don't have to necessarily work 8 hours a day. Uh, a lot of time you hear the entrepreneurship guys, and it usually is guys on social media talking about they work 26 hours a day and they don't sleep and they don't eat and they don't breathe, but they're somehow making it happen. Talk to me about, because obviously you have work ethic. Is it that you're being so efficient with your time, or is it that you've cut out the time that you'd be too tired and you're not actually doing much? How are you making it more than making it right now, and working less than some 9 to 5ers, if I understand it correctly? And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. So I have two components of that. Now, the stage that I'm in, I don't work dogmatic. I'm not going to say I've always been this way. In the beginning of my journey, I had this hustle mentality, but I actually hate that word. I don't want to hustle for anything. If I'm hustling, I'm kind of scrounging something from you. I'm not a taker. So when I changed my language about hustle hard, all of that culturally stuff, I'm like, I'm not hustling for nothing. And I'm just going to go there with faith. I serve a good God. I'm supposed to, do amazing in life, right? I'm not settling for less, right? The only thing that I have to literally conduct is my mindset. That's the one thing I have to constantly keep focused. So I don't have to work 8 hours, and there's certain things I will not compromise. So for me and my husband and our household, we do not believe, like, our kids is our focus. Our family comes first. It's
Mhm.
God, family. The business is actually last. Church, it's like our marriage is there. Everything is before the business. The
Mhm.
business gets the leftovers, right? But what's beautiful about the business kind of is, I wouldn't say get the leftovers. It's just like we're very strategic on how much we're investing into the business. Now, if the business has you and the dollar sign is your why, then I'm chasing and I'm hustling. I stand on, I provide value. And if I give value, it will come back to me
Mhm.
10 times fold.
Mhm.
That's it. That's our model. That's what we stick to. And we don't have to work 16 hours. My husband edits podcasts and do all that stuff. He might work on it for a couple of hours and go back to it. You're strategically placing your time. And I'm only working on things that are going to bring me monetary value, period. If I'm just sitting here and just scrolling, that's not bringing me no coins.
Right.
Sorry, not doing it. I'm taking my kids out for a scooter ride. I will do that on Saturday. So I think there's so much time in a day, but not a lot of people are very realistic of how much time they're wasting. They're
Right.
clicking, even in entrepreneurship, they're clicking and they're doing stuff like that. For the guys that work 26 hours and all that stuff, I find that there's enough time in the world, and you have to ask yourself, how much money are you really trying to obtain? How much money are you? And for me, that's a value system. I'm not chasing nothing. I don't want to be on a hamster. So that's another misconception of why people don't really join the entrepreneurship role, because of you hear that very loud in the online streets. You got to work hard, and you do. But if I spend 8 hours on things, it only takes, and I learned this from my personal business coach, 20 minutes a day to network. 20 minutes. Building your business after dark. She has built her whole business working a 9 to 5, 20 minutes a day. So she only provides value for 20 minutes a day. She's my business coach. I found her, right? She specializes in things that makes things evergreen. Why? but she did the work to get here at 20 minutes a day, working a full-time job. So I think you have to assess your time. And I don't think people audit their time. They'll audit how much money they have in the bank, but they don't audit their time. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing you don't get back. So that's why you literally have to you have to provide value. I say it so much. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but if you don't find value in what you're bringing to the work space or what you're bringing, you will walk dogmatic because your why is to a dollar sign.
Yeah.
Can't be. It has to be a problem that you're solving that you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about it, you will work yourself to the dog, like as a dog. Then what do you get? You look up and you've missed everything. The whole point of being an entrepreneur is to provide, to gain back your time, to gain back the freedom of the joy of what it is that you want to do. Have the joy. Why would you trade that in to be dogmatic? No, that's ridiculous. So I think that people are missing that. And I always tell people, you can follow whoever you want, but what do you want out of this entrepreneurship journey? That's right. What you have to ask that. And so I think we say, you hear it a lot, the why, and you get the cliche answers. Oh, why? Because I want freedom. What is freedom? Write it out. Write out, what does your freedom look like? Your day-to-day freedom. My day-to-day freedom was, I want to be able to travel. I'm still in my why. I'm still working my why because now I have children. And my why is, I want to be able to provide a space for my children where I'm not getting the leftovers of my children, where school is raising them, all day. And then I'm getting the leftovers, like 3 hours and then go to sleep. And then that's it. So there's a different why for me. And my why keeps getting bigger, but I write out the reason that I'm in this game. The reason why I'm doing Charge Your Worth Academy is because I want other stylists to get to this place where they have their freedom back, that they're not a slave to the chair. They're actually like, I can work and go back to the enjoyment and not really worry about how much income I'm bringing. And then I can travel. Like I can travel the way I want to. Like we get so caught up in the doing of the entrepreneurship, we forget to dream a little bit. You got to keep dreaming. Keep believing your dream, keep seeing your dream. Sometimes my husband, this is his idea, but we actually go to the places and work in the places that we want to be at. So we actually drove to the beach. This is his idea. We drove to downtown San Diego, took our laptops and literally worked on the ocean, like literally took our laptops out. And this is our dream. So it's like live vision boarding. If you don't go there to do those things, and at first I'm like, nah, brother, I ain't doing that. I need my house. I need different things. But it was the best experience ever because it kept me like understanding, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. Even when money is not rolling into the business just yet, you want to know why you're doing it. And this is what I'm going after and I deserve it. So.
Right. 100%. Yeah. That's dope. And I love the live vision boarding. That's a new concept for me. I'm definitely going to take that one home. Another thing I noticed is that you took yourself seriously enough and you took your dream seriously enough to invest in a coach for yourself. That is big. Everybody's trying to do it off the free tips on the internet. But you cared enough about your dream and actually making it happen that you were willing to invest your hard-earned money in somebody that could assist you in a more personalized way. And obviously it worked out. And obviously you're doing something similar to what that coach did for you. Mm-hmm. And I just appreciate, here's what you're doing in my eyes. You've connected the way you make a living to the way that you want to live life. Right? So you're earning a living and you're living your life. Those aren't two separate things for you. Mm-hmm. Those are one part of a whole. And I think that's the kind of holistic career orientation that the people on this podcast are seeking. So Angelica, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We deeply appreciate it. I have learned a lot. You've given me tons of ideas for content. And I'm sure the people are going to want to follow you. Please let us know where we can find you online and elsewhere.
So you can find me on Instagram. I am _Angelica Prather. And then I'm also on Facebook. I also have a group called Black Stylists United. It's a really good community of Black stylists coming together. And you can find Robin Laurel, which is my hair care line, Robin Laurel Co. on Instagram. So you can find me on all platforms.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for being here. Look forward to talking again. I officially consider you a friend of the show. Have a great night, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely.
Oh man, guys, we're coming fresh off our interview with Angelica Prather, founder of Charge Your Worth Academy. And let's just start there. If we want to be entrepreneurs, at some point, we have to accept that we need to charge for what we do. And I think as soon as you have something valuable, it's time. As soon as you have something valuable, it's time. Second takeaway. The second takeaway from my conversation with Angelica was this. You don't have to be anybody but yourself to find people that you can speak to and that you can add value to. You have to be able to trust and have faith that God made you, the way God made you is sufficient and more than sufficient actually to serve people in the marketplace. That you as you are a value provider, just honing your skills and becoming a more perfect and more mature version of yourself. Last, you got to have the skills to back up what you say you want to do. You got to spend time and energy working on that craft. But if you're doing that, don't create excuses. Don't create boundaries. Don't get caught up in your emotions. And when you're trying to do something like find out how much to charge, this was something really clutch that she said. She said, remove yourself from the equation. Stop thinking, how much should I charge for X service? You need to think, how much is X service worth? Straight up. And that's what you charge. Not everybody's going to go with you. Not everybody's going to understand. But if you're going to build a business that's sustainable and that you enjoy and that fits into your life in a way that satisfies you, if you want the way you make a living to be perfectly and harmoniously married to the way that you make a life, you got to step up. You got to be brave. You got to provide something of value, and you've got to charge what you should charge for it. With that said, thank you again for listening to another episode of the No Job Podcast. I'm glad to be here. I know what we are doing is worth it. I know it's worth the effort because it's helping me. And if it's helping me, I know it can help you. Anyone who would take the time out to listen to this, stay strong on your journey to no job. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You know it in your soul. You have to do it. So if you got to do it, you might as well do it right. See you next time. I'm Najee Simmons, and this is the No Job Podcast.